Hello there all my lovely jewelry makers, I'm Christina at CSLdesigns, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this elegant adjustable wirework ring. So we have this really cool effect all the way along the ring because of the weave that we're doing, and then we finish it off in a way that makes it adjustable. Now this ring actually matches a bracelet that I previously made perfectly, so it'll be great to make a set with. I'm going to leave a link to that in the description box down below, and if you want to support me in any way you can always like, share and subscribe. And there is also a super thanks button below the video if you want to help out that way so I can keep making more tutorials for you. Otherwise, if you want to learn how to make this cute adjustable ring, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to need. The wire that I'm using is a regular round copper wire, and the first gauge here is a 0.8mm, and that's going to be the base wire. And then I'm using a 0.4mm for the weaving wire. And then of course we also need a few tools. So first of all I got my flush cutters here so we can cut our wire, tweezer nose pliers to help manipulate the wire, and then a ring mandrel to get the right size and shape. So make sure to check out the description box below the video, you'll find the material list and useful links. Otherwise let's get it all ready and let's get started. So then the wires that we'll need is first of all 5 lengths of a 0.8mm of about 15 centimeters each. And as for the 0.4mm, I'm just leaving that attached to the reel so we have minimum wastage. So to get started I'm going to grab 1 length of base wire and then of course my weaving wire as well. Then I'm going to start towards one end, just leaving a few centimeters of tail on both of them. Then I'm just going to wrap the weaving wire around the base wire twice so it's attached, and then we want to start adding in the other base wires. So I'm going to grab another one, place it on top of the previous one, and then I'm going to bring the weaving wire over the top of both of them, come down behind them, go over the top of them again. So I've gone over the top of both base wires twice, and then I'm going to bring the weaving wire up between the two base wires, grab another base wire, lay that as the new top one, and then go over the top of these two top base wires, come up between the bottom two, so we can go over them again. So we're making double wraps every time here, come up between the top two, so the two we just wrapped over the top of, bring in another base wire, lay that as the new top one. As you can see we're just working our way upwards as we're gradually adding in our base wires here. Wrap over the top of the top two, come up in the same place as before to wrap over the same two again, and then come up between those two, push that down nice and tight. And then the final base wire here is the new top one, so wrap over the top of the top two base wires again, come up in the same place to wrap around a second time, and then just make sure all your wraps are nice and tight. So basically what we've done is made a little set of stairs that are gradually going upwards. So what we need to do now is come back down. So I'm going to come up between the second and third base wire so that I can wrap over the top of the next two base wires down from the top one, and then come up in the same place to wrap over those two again. So you can see we've now made the equivalent step as to just the other side of the very top one, and step down another time. So go up between the bottom two base wires to wrap around the next two above them, and do that again. I'm just going to make sure my wraps are nice and tight, and then you can see we're kind of creating this little pyramid almost, where we're stepping up and then stepping back down. But we've now reached the point where we would make another two wraps around the bottom two base wires here, but we actually don't want to do that. What we're going to do instead is take the bottom base wire, so without doing that last wrap down here, what I'm going to do is push it upwards against the first wrap there, and then push it over the top towards the top of all the base wires. And then I like to put my thumb on there to hold it in place, and then bring the wire down back in to join up with the other ones. But this has now gone from the bottom base wire to being the top one, and we're just adding little curves in it basically. So it's just crossing over the wraps that we did like that. So the two final wraps that we just did before are actually the bottom ones now. So what I'm going to do is start stepping back up. So that means I'm coming up between the two that I wrapped over the top of, and then just wrap over the top of the next two base wires, and repeat that. Come up between the two we just wrapped over the top of, to go over the next two base wires working our way upwards, and then repeat that to get the second wrap. Come up between those two base wires we just went over the top of, so we can go over the top of the very two top base wires now, the very top one being the one that was the bottom one before, but we brought up by crossing it over the weave. So we just want to go over the top of those two, and basically this will now be the top of the pyramid, you could say, and we've now fastened it in place and it looks like that. Then we want to step back down, so I'm just going to step down one base wire to go over the top of the next two down from where we just were. Push everything nice and tight, repeat that same wrap, and step down one base wire again, so that's in between the bottom and the second bottom one. Do your double wrap over the next two base wires down from where we just did our previous ones, and then this is where if we did another wrap we would include the very bottom base wire, but we don't want to do that. What we want to do is instead bring it from the bottom here, push it up right up against the last wrap we did with that bottom base wire, and push it over the top of all of the wires and the weave, and then hold it in place with your fingers while then bringing it down to join up with the other base wires, but now becoming the new top one. And you can see we've now created another crossover with another length of wire, and this is then where we can start stepping back up. So come up between the two base wires we just wrapped over the top of before, and just make one step at a time, making your double wraps, working our way towards the top until we then get to where we incorporate that new base wire we brought from the bottom to become the new top one. So do your double wrap around those, and then we're ready to start stepping down again. And that is basically the pattern that we're going to keep doing now. So remember, step down, but don't include the very bottom base wire, because that one we need to bring up and over all the others and the weave to become the new top base wire. So just keep doing this pattern for however long you need it to be. So now I've got my length here, and just for reference I've got about 6 centimeters of weave, but of course that will depend on the size you want yours to be, even though it is adjustable. Now here at the end what I'm just going to do is also just wrap around the top base wire by itself twice, just like we did when we started out, just so the weaving wire is wrapped nice and securely. And then what we can do is actually get rid of the weaving wire, because we are done with that for now. So I'm just flipping it to the back, cutting off the excess, and then just make sure to squeeze down that end so you can't feel it with your fingers, and then just finish off the other end in the same way. Cut off the excess and just push down the very end. Now from here we need to shape it, so I'm going to get out my ring mandrel and then just place your weave and start to shape it around to the point where the two ends will almost meet up, and then just have them overlap for now. Make sure to also push the ends down so the whole ring gets a nice round shape, and then we basically just need to finish off the ends of the base wire. So what I'm going to do is obviously work on one end at a time, and I want to start bringing the base wires back over the top of themselves, minus the very top one, so the one that came from the bottom and became the new top one the very last time there. I want to just avoid that, but the rest of them I want to bring back over the top of themselves in the opposite direction there, just right up against the weave. Just do them all so they're sitting right next to each other like this, and then I'm going to go in and cut off the excess, and just make sure that the length that's going to be left is just long enough so the end of the wire here meets up with the side of the wire that's crossing over the weave. So just to demonstrate, it's going to end up sitting like that, but you'll be able to see it better once I've cut them off. So just go in and cut one off at a time, and rather cut them so they're still too long than too short, because you can always just go in and trim off a bit more if you need to. So now you're able to see a little bit better what I mean. So where we cut the wire is right before where they're basically going to overlap that base wire that's crossing over within the weave, because what I'm then going to do is push them down. So just basically tighten this bend that we made, and then the very end of the wire is going to kind of get tucked away by butting up against the side of that wire that's crossing over. And you just want to do that with all of them, because that way we get rid of the ends of the wire. So obviously we don't want them to catch or scratch on our skin or anything. So push them down nice and tight, and then we have a nice finished end that's not going to irritate in any way. Now what we have left is the final base wire there, the one that is actually wrapping over the top of the weave. as the final one. What I'm going to do is bring this down, just bend it right up against the four that we just bent over themselves and cut off. So it just follows the line like that, and then bend it back around again. So basically it's going to end up lining up with the others and just joining in, and then the same principle, cut off the excess so the end that's going to be left, it's going to just fit nicely and butt up against, basically in this case, itself further back. And again, we then get rid of the end of the wire in that way. And it's kind of just framed in the end nicely. Of course, you want to then do the same by flipping your ring around and finish all these ends off in the exact same way. And then of course, if you need to, you can always bring it back on the ring mandrel just to make sure it still has a nice shape. Now, just to reference the size that I told you before, I made about 6 centimeters of weave, and that's turned into about a size P ring. But of course, like I said, they are adjustable, so you can easily just make the weave shorter if you want a smaller ring. But otherwise, that is then your ring finished and ready to wear. So you end up with this really cute adjustable wirework ring that has a very cool effect. And because of the interesting weave, it would also be perfect for oxidizing to really make it stand out. But otherwise, like I mentioned, I'm going to leave the tutorial for the matching bracelet in the description box down below. Otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one.